Have you ever wondered why Mary's yes resonates in hearts around the world, even when no one speaks it? Deep within Medjugorje, a small village that has captivated the attention of millions, a silent pact is woven that transcends time and words. Mary's yes, engraved in faithful souls, acts as a spiritual compass for those seeking solace and purpose. Imagine for a moment a gentle, almost imperceptible call that invites you to inner conversion and awakens a spark of faith within you. Does that feeling of peace that arises after a sincere prayer or a whisper of hope when you least expect it sound familiar? Stay with me until the end, because what you will discover now may change the way you understand Mary's intercession and the prophecies she shares. On this journey, we will follow in the footsteps of a fascinating mystery, the 7 unrevealed messages of Medjugorje that form the hidden key to this spiritual pact. We are not speaking of distant or abstract revelations, but of calls to concrete action that Mary whispers into the hearts of those willing to listen with humility and obedience. Have you ever felt an inexplicable premonition during prayer, or a gentle tremor that invites you to renew your relationship with the divine? This is part of the renewal of prayer that forms one of these secret messages. The voice of Mary guiding those who yearn for an authentic connection with the sacred. As we explore the historical context of these apparitions and the echo of the prophecies in every corner of the planet, you will realize that the silent pact is not a mere symbol, but a living commitment that invites conversion, unity, and unwavering love. What you are about to discover now may surprise you, from signs in nature to testimonies of inner healing. Each message reveals a unique facet of Mary's mercy and forgiveness. Have you ever wondered why so many pilgrims abandon the daily rush to gather in Medjugorje and pray for hours without saying a word? It is the magnetism of a divine yes that transcends worship and ceremonies, a universal call that breaks down barriers and awakens solidarity among peoples. Throughout this narrative, we will connect these silent signs with real experiences, stories of souls who found in Mary's yes the refuge they needed to overcome inner darkness, accounts of surprising phenomena that defy logic, and evidence of the Virgin's maternal presence alongside those who invoke her with faith. Have you ever been touched by an inexplicable aroma, like roses in the midst of prayer, or witnessed a ray of light that pierced the shadow of your fear? These are the tangible signs of the covenant, signals that confirm that Mary is teaching her children to listen without ears and see without physical eyes, trusting in the guidance of the Spirit. This video will guide you step by step through each of the 7 unrevealed messages, offering practical keys to living this yes daily. From renewing your prayer, to persevering in faith during trials, to a commitment to courageously share divine love. Are you ready to respond to Mary's call? In the next part, we will delve deeper into the first secret message, revealing how to recognize inner conversion and how to allow that seed of change to grow in the fertile soil of your heart. And as these truths whispered by Mary begin to resonate in your heart, I want to hear from you too. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. Share your experience, that unique feeling that arose when you heard about the silent yes, engraved in your soul. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of content, and each comment brings new light to this community of faith. If you feel, like me, that this message can transform lives, like the video so that more hearts can be reached by this pact of hope. And don't forget to subscribe. This way you show your desire to continue following these secret revelations of Medjugorje and help keep this flame of spiritual union alive. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, returning to June 24, 1981. When, on a quiet hillside in Medjugorje, 6 young people felt something extraordinary, a gentle yet powerful presence that would mark the beginning of a journey of transformation for millions of people. On that warm day, before a sunset that tinted the sky orange and purple, these children reported seeing a lady of serene light, whose voice seemed to echo behind the scenes of creation itself. The hidden truth behind that initial encounter remained hidden for decades, but its global impact was not long in emerging. Within weeks, testimonies of unexpected healings and feelings of peace swept not only local families but dozens of nations, like a silent wave summoning profound decisions of faith and surrender. The way those apparitions spread reveals much about the mindset of the time, a world still divided by fear of the future and the search for immediate answers, thirsting for signs of hope. When the news reached the major media outlets, many were skeptical, dismissing it as a mass hallucination. Others, however, found in the stories connections with their own crises and desires for change. Thus Medjugorje ceased to be just a forgotten village on maps and became one of the most visited places by pilgrims searching for meaning, spiritual jackals on the hunt for the hidden truth that only a silent yes could reveal. Over the years, documentaries and academic studies have sought to understand the images those young people described, the Virgin's delicate posture, the almost palpable glow that enveloped her face, the wordless invitation to deeper prayer. Each new testimony added a chapter to the behind-the-scenes story of this phenomenon, and a global narrative took shape that transcended cultural and religious boundaries. From reflection groups in urban centers to spiritual retreats in distant mountains, that original 1981 experience began to guide life decisions, redefining priorities, and stimulating the search for an intimate commitment to the divine. It wasn't just the mystical aspect that moved hearts, but also the practical dimension of the message. A call for peace, reconciliation, and solidarity that gained strength amid regional conflicts and political tensions. In the peripheries of Eastern Europe, fractured families found solace in reading accounts of brothers and sisters who confessed to having seen the same supernatural phenomenon. In each account, there was a clear invitation to reflect on what truly matters, eternal values beyond fleeting conventions, an internal transformation capable of generating a positive impact on the surrounding community. Scientific studies, however, skeptical, began to point to intriguing patterns, an unexplained rose-like scent, subtle changes in the seer's physical behavior during visions, and even records of instances of thermal radiation around their hands, as if something invisible were passing between heaven and earth. These revelations, published in psychology and experimental physics journals, brought an aura of authority to the phenomenon, giving spiritual leaders and academics more confidence in discussing the details without fear of dismissing science. From then on, Medjugorje became a living laboratory of personal transformation, where each pilgrim experiences a kind of spiritual coaching. Decisions that once seemed complex are now made with clarity, guided by that spark of confidence born from the silent contact with Mary's yes. It's as if, upon reaching the foot of the hill, each person enters an inner rite of passage. The mind opens, the heart expands, and the individual journey connects to a larger web of faith and hope. And as the 1981 story intertwines with current accounts of young and old experiencing emotional and physical healing, we realize that this is not just a single event, but a series of ongoing revelations, a living storyline that continues to unfold. Each new visitor carries with them questions about love, forgiveness, and purpose, and finds answers that go far beyond the visible. By understanding this historical context, we gain perspective to recognize that that silent yes is not just an emotionally charged symbol, but a real invitation to transformation, capable of influencing everyday decisions and revolutionizing the way we live our faith. Comment here. I'm on this journey to now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Imagine there's an invisible thread connecting each heart to the exact moment Mary's yes is expressed. A current of spiritual energy that goes unnoticed by human eyes but alters the trajectory of our most intimate decisions. This is the true silent pact, a maternal consent spoken without words, that is imprinted like an indelible mark on the soul of those who are willing to welcome her presence. The transformation happens so subtly that we often only realize its impact when we notice a change in mindset, an unexpected inclination toward prayer, or a renewed desire to seek the hidden truth behind the apparitions of Medjugorje. At the heart of this pact, we find signs that reveal themselves behind the scenes of spiritual experience. A shiver that runs down the spine during a moment of contemplation, a soft scent of roses that lingers in the air without apparent explanation, or a powerful intuition that guides us through life's uncertainties. These small glimpses serve as constant reminders of Mary's yes, reminding us that we are not alone. On this journey, as we begin to understand these clues, our perception sharpens, and decisions previously motivated by fear or doubt become guided by renewed confidence. The fruit of this silent encouragement that propels us forward. Think about how many times you found yourself facing an emotional dilemma, struggling with anxieties that seemed greater than your faith, and suddenly felt an inexplicable peace envelop your heart. This sensation, often underestimated, is one of the fundamental elements of the silent pact. Mary, without uttering a single syllable, offers comfort and courage, inviting us to make an internal commitment to surrender in listening. By accepting this call, we begin to cultivate a mindset of continuous openness, allowing every thought and action to be aligned with the values of love, mercy, and reconciliation that she represents. In practice, understanding Mary's yes means paying attention to the signs that emerge in different contexts of our daily lives. It could be a hopeful phrase we find in a passage from a book, a melody that deeply touches our emotions, or a casual conversation that ignites a spark of renewed purpose within us. These seemingly fortuitous encounters are part of a larger design, a kind of divine script in which every detail, no matter how small, contributes to our spiritual growth. By recognizing these moments, we begin an intimate conversation with the sacred, an exchange of glances that strengthens our faith and impels us to act in accordance with the teachings Mary inspires in us. It's important to understand that this pact doesn't exempt us from daily trials and challenges. On the contrary, it provides us with the inner resources to face them with wisdom and serenity. When we're at a crossroads, about to make a decision that could alter the course of our lives, the silent yes resonates like an inner beacon, guiding us toward choices that promote healing, unity, and truth. This dynamic of constant interaction with Mary's presence allows us to rewrite our personal narrative based on revelations that emerge within us, far from the spotlight, but with a lasting effect on our way of living and loving. As we explore this reality further, we realize that the silent pact also has a community impact. Those who experience this yes radiate an energy of joy and hope, positively influencing their surroundings. Families are reunited, communities are renewing solidarity, projects, and even in professional and academic settings, ideas of compassion and service are beginning to gain traction. This collective impact demonstrates that Mary's consent, though silent, reverberates like a transformative echo, capable of redefining paradigms and inspiring movements of fraternity and compassion. Behind the scenes of this phenomenon, scholars of theology, psychology, and quantum physics have sought to identify patterns that corroborate the pilgrims' intuitions. Preliminary research suggests that the emotional frequency generated by faith can positively influence our cognitive processes, increasing our resilience and mental clarity. These scientific findings, surprising as they may be, only reinforce what many believers already feel in their hearts. Mary's covenant is more than a subjective experience. It is a force that acts at the foundation of our emotional structure, shaping a mindset centered on love and truth. And as we delve deeper into the nuances of this silent yes, we realize that our own role in this story is essential. We are invited to respond with a reciprocal yes, a commitment to seek ongoing revelation, to keep our hearts alert to signs, and to allow grace to manifest in every decision we make. This dynamic of dialogue, Mary speaking through silence, and us responding with acts of faith, constitutes the essence of a living pact, renewed at every moment and inviting us to experience a journey of discovery and profound connection with the divine. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. The first secret message of Medjugorje is, above all, a call to inner conversion, as if Mary were extending her hand to guide each of us along an invisible path, yet one filled with signs of transformation. Since the first reports of those who approached a hill of apparitions, stories have emerged of lives that have been completely transformed. People trapped in patterns of fear found the courage to break free from addictions. Hardened hearts were touched by a love capable of restoring broken relationships, and minds accustomed to worldly logic were open to a hidden truth that transcends any rational understanding. This invitation to change goes far beyond a simple New Year's resolution. It is a profound movement of spiritual psychology, in which our mindset is realigned to see beyond the visible. Imagine someone who, for years, lived with the anxiety of a toxic job, making decisions based solely on financial survival, until, in a prayer said under the gentle afternoon breeze in Medjugorje, they felt a weight lift from their chest. It was at that moment that conversion went from a theoretical concept to a lived experience. In an instant, the priority ceased to be profit or status and became the search for a greater purpose, a positive impact on the workplace and on their own family. This change in mindset, this inner revolution, is part of the silent pact that Mary initiates in every heart open to receiving her yes. Behind the scenes of this revelation, there are impressive stories of people who, after their conversion, witnessed a series of coincidences or rather synchronicities that led them to projects of mercy, volunteer initiatives, or even careers in social service. One former executive, for example, traded long office hours for work in orphanages, recounting how, upon making that decision, guided by a deep intuition, he felt Mary's words echo in acts of daily compassion. This is the power of the first message. It shows us that true conversion is not a single act, but an ongoing journey, punctuated by constant revelations that transform who we are and shape our story. Inner conversion also challenges our sense of identity. Who are we when we don't just seek recognition from others? In Medjugorje, many pilgrims report a process of self-questioning that begins with simple dilemmas. Why am I doing this? And evolves into bolder decisions, such as forgiving someone who caused them pain or giving up comfortable privileges to dedicate oneself to communion with others. This sequence of decisions reflects a hidden truth, that authentic faith is not passive, but dynamic, and affirms itself through concrete actions that often contradict market logic or social expectations. Looking at these accounts, we realize how Mary's inner conversion involves a constant exercise of listening. It's not just about loudspeaker speeches, but an intimate process, listening to the beating of one's own heart, recognizing the emptiness that can only be filled by something transcendent, and humbly embracing the idea that our journey is not a solitary one. This realization has a silent yet powerful impact on the way we relate to one another, whether at the dinner table with family, in a boardroom, or even in casual conversations with friends. In the communities that embraced this initial message, prayer groups emerged that function as true laboratories of transformation, where each member shares their personal revelations and offers mutual support to continue on the path of conversion. These support networks exemplify how a decision made in a moment of spiritual fervor can gain collective strength. Inspiring initiatives involving simple feeds, a gesture of forgiveness, an anonymous donation, a word of encouragement, but with far-reaching impact on the social fabric. This is how Mary's silent yes becomes a catalyst for tangible change in the world. The conversion brought about by this message also opens the door to questioning our concept of success. Instead of merely material goals, we begin to value inner growth, harmony in relationships, and the pursuit of a legacy of love. A couple who had recently arrived in Medjugorje, for example, reported having reassessed their priorities after realizing, amidst an unusual sense of peace, that investing in a life of service to others was far more rewarding than accumulating possessions. This radical shift in mindset demonstrates the power of a conversion that, far from being ephemeral, sustains a new way of living and making decisions. As we explore these concrete examples, we better understand why this first message is so fundamental. It lays the foundation for our spiritual transformation, providing the foundation upon which the remaining Medjugorje messages will build. Each step toward this conversion creates a firm bridge between our former selves and the new version of ourselves. Guided by a greater truth that shines in the darkness like a discreet yet unshakable beacon. Now, as we reflect on the unfolding of this internal shift and realize how it can influence our most everyday choices, it becomes clear that we are not faced with a simple promise of comfort. We are invited to embrace an adventure of faith, filled with revelations that unfold day by day. With each decision made with this new mindset, with each spontaneous act of love, we reaffirm our commitment to the silent pact that Mary engraved in our hearts. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. When we speak of the renewal of prayer, we delve into an essential aspect of the silent pact, how Mary's yes reveals the transformative power of an intimate conversation with the divine. In Medjugorje, many pilgrims describe prayer not as a mechanical ritual, but as a true journey of self-discovery, where every sigh, every lament held in the heart, finds an echo in the silent presence of the Virgin. It is as if, by bending our knees, we break the barriers of worldly logic and enter a sacred space, filled with small revelations that reverberate behind the scenes of our existence. Voices of faith rise up to recount moments when prayer, guided by this covenant, acted as a beacon in the midst of the storm. A young professional, facing the possibility of losing his job due to cruel corporate decisions, found unexpected serenity. In a prayer at nightfall, he recounts that, as he stammered out his trembling words, he felt a weight lift from his being, as if Mary's yes were saying, "Trust, I am with you." The next day, inspired by this surge of courage, he presented a proposal for reorganizing processes that not only saved his position, but also transformed the dynamics of the entire team. This is the power of renewed prayer. It directly impacts our practical decisions, infusing wisdom and clarity where before there was only chaos and doubt. In another remarkable account, a mother, watching her son struggle with a serious illness, found a refuge of hope in the habit of praying before an image of Our Lady. In the silence of her room, she repeated seemingly endless prayers, until one morning she was awakened by the sweet aroma of flowers that enveloped her completely. This was not just a sensory phenomenon, it was a tangible sign that we were dealing not with something merely psychological, but with the real intercession of Mary, working behind the scenes of matter and spirit. From that moment on, the boy's journey of recovery gained surprising momentum, demonstrating that a renewed sense of prayer can alter our understanding of possibility and healing. These revelations don't happen in isolation. They follow a pattern of internal transformation. When we begin to shift our mindset, leaving behind the pessimism that imprisons us and adopt a posture of continuous prayer, our perception of the world expands. We see opportunities where we previously saw obstacles, and we find the strength to make decisions that point toward building a legacy of love and service. Each prayer, then, becomes a seed planted in fertile soil, destined to blossom into fruits of compassion and solidarity. For many, renewing prayer also means reviving ancestral practices. The rosary prayed as a family, litanies chanted together, meditative reading of scripture. These communal moments reinforce the impact of the silent pact, as the union of voices multiplies spiritual energy and creates a field of prayer that transcends geographic and cultural boundaries. It is the embodiment of a hidden truth. Collective faith has the power to change not only individual hearts, but the entire social fabric around it. In testimonies from priests and scholars, the understanding emerges that the Medjugorje phenomenon offers valuable clues about how true prayer can be approached in other spiritual contexts. Observing the intensity of reports of conversions, healings, and guidance received in silent prayer, theologians began revisiting spirituality manuals and rethinking concepts of intercession and contemplation. The result is academic articles and seminars that seek to map the impact of this renewal behind the scenes of the global church, promoting a profound reflection on the role of prayer in the 21st century. More than an exercise in devotion, the renewal of prayer in Medjugorje reveals a model of transformation that can be replicated on any spiritual journey. It involves adopting a mindset of constant presence, not just scheduling specific moments, but letting prayer permeate our daily activities, in traffic, at work, in family life. When we allow the hidden truth of this silent pact to manifest itself in every gesture, we discover that continual prayer increases our emotional resilience, strengthens our capacity for empathy, and redirects our decisions toward the common good. Mary's yes, in this context, functions as a permanent invitation to live consciously, aligning our thoughts and feelings with values of love, tolerance, and forgiveness. And, as we understand the depth of this call, we realize that prayer becomes a living dialogue, a dynamic exchange of intentions between heaven and earth. In this dialogue, every word, even the simplest, carries the potential to generate personal revelations that reverberate throughout our lives. The testimonies continue to emerge. A businessman who, after moments of crisis, found renewed courage through prayer to invest in a social project, a teacher who saw discouraged students find purpose again by creating a prayer group at school, a couple who rescued their marriage from the brink of collapse by rediscovering together the power of giving thanks and supplication in prayer. Each story reinforces the fact that this silent pact is not an abstract concept, but a living force that acts in practice, altering trajectories and reshaping destinies. Now, as we resonate with these narratives of faith and realize the transformative power that renewed prayer can exert, I leave you with a reflection. How can this dynamic influence your own journey? Write it down. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Visualize a fire that doesn't burn the flesh, but burns within the soul, purifying every shadow of doubt and igniting the spark of divine love in those who open themselves to Mary's silent call. This spiritual fire, symbolized by the third message of Medjugorje, is not a visible flame, but a gentle warmth that penetrates the being, inciting a transformation so profound that it becomes palpable in the consciousness of those who embrace it. It is as if the Virgin, in a maternal gesture, were breathing upon the hearts of the faithful, instilling a renewed ardor that expands compassion and reconfigures the way we see others and ourselves. In moving accounts, pilgrims describe moments when they felt this inner fire take hold of their emotions, most marked by fear or resentment. One woman, gripped by old family grievances, confessed to experiencing an indescribable heat while praying at the foot of the hill. It wasn't sweat or excitement, but a feeling of purification that led her to forgive those who had hurt her. In that moment, she realized that forgiveness was not an act of weakness, but rather a decisive step toward freeing herself from the invisible shackles that impeded her journey to peace. The inner healing that followed, according to her testimony, was as spontaneous as the fire that burned within her, redefining her mindset and her daily behavior. This impact of the fire of divine love is not limited to emotional issues. It also reverberates in practical decisions, shaping attitudes of solidarity and generosity that emerge naturally. A young doctor, after an experience of intense prayer in Medjugorje, reported adopting a completely different approach to his work. Instead of seeing patients merely as cases, he began to accompany them with attentive and empathetic care, offering more than just treatments, but also words of encouragement that, in many instances, worked miracles of motivation and hope. For him, the fire Mary lit was the spark that ignited his vocation, impelling him to transform simple gestures of care into acts of mercy. Behind the scenes of this message, spirituality scholars seek to understand how the symbolism of fire present in ancient traditions is renewed in Medjugorje to speak directly to the contemporary heart. Researchers in comparative theology point out that the purifying fire recalls Old Testament traditions, in which God manifests himself as a column of fire, simultaneously protective and demanding holiness. In Medjugorje, this fire does not consume, but illuminates. It reveals hidden truths about ourselves, reveals the rough edges that need to be smoothed over, and, at the same time, instills courage to move forward, even when circumstances seem adverse. The symbolism goes beyond academic writings. Those who experience this speak of sensations that escape rationality. An elderly man, grieving the loss of a loved one, describes suddenly noticing an intense warmth in his chest, accompanied by a profound peace, while praying silently. It was as if divine fire itself had whispered that death is not the end, but a passage to the fullness of eternal love. This realization triggered a paradigm shift in his faith, bringing comfort to his heart and inspiring him to share this legacy of hope with his community, writing letters, visiting the sick, and offering emotional support to those facing similar circumstances. Each of these episodes demonstrates how the fire of divine love operates both individually and communally. As it ignites in the innermost being of each believer, it radiates into family life, the local church, and even into social gatherings. Small prayer groups in Medjugorje are already mobilizing to bring this spiritual warmth to orphanages and nursing homes, organizing gatherings where the testimony of inner healing inspires practical acts of service. This dynamic reveals that the fire, though silent, has a visible impact. It generates a domino effect of kindness and compassion that, even without the spotlight, transforms realities and reveals the strength of a living faith. In terms of a personal journey, embracing this flame means allowing yourself to be shaped, like metal forged by intense heat. Decisions become guided by a selfless love that prioritizes the well-being of others over one's own comfort. It is the courage to choose the hidden truth, the one that often contradicts the logic of selfishness but, in the fire of Pact, emerges as the only choice capable of fostering true peace. Throughout this transformation, we understand that each sacrifice, each act of charity, serves as fuel to keep the flame burning, fueling an uninterrupted cycle of spiritual growth. We also see how the symbolism of fire invites us to overcome fears, the fear of making mistakes, being judged, or facing painful consequences. When the flame of divine love burns in our hearts, this fear dissolves, as we understand that we are not alone, and that every step taken with spiritual honesty counts toward building a legacy of light. This understanding has practical effects. Many people report overcoming emotional paralysis that prevented them from realizing dreams or reconciling with the past, experiencing renewed courage to pursue goals that previously seemed unattainable. Furthermore, the metaphor of fire reminds us of a dynamic of constant renewal, just as fire consumes the old to make way for the new. Mary's message at Medjugorje invites us to let go of limiting beliefs and self-destructive behaviors, making room for a mindset of growth and service. It's a process that doesn't happen all at once, but in stages, behind the scenes of the soul, in each decision to forgive, to love without expecting anything in return, and to sow acts of kindness. These small, daily sacrifices form the fuel that keeps the silent pact alive. As we explore this transformative power of the fire of divine love, we realize that it acts as a driving force for change that, while reaching our innermost being, reverberates in the world around us. It is an invitation to live more consciously, to make decisions aligned with eternal values, and to recognize, in every act of compassion, the true flame that burns in Mary's heart. And, as this flame expands within us, we begin to glimpse a horizon where love becomes the source of all our choices, shaping a journey of faith that combines inner revelations and concrete gestures of solidarity. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. We could say that, in Medjugorje, Mary's silent yes is not only an inner invitation, but also manifests itself in visible signs, engraved both on the visionaries' bodies and in nature itself, as revealing clues that sustain this journey of faith. Behind the scenes of these apparitions, there are testimonies of gentle stigmata appearing on the skin, marks as delicate as they are discreet, yet capable of indicating a mysterious bond between the human and the divine. Imagine seeing faint traces of wounds on the hands or feet of someone who, silently, accepts the burden of compassion, reproducing, in their body, the symbol of the love that heals and transforms. These signs in the body, though rare, convince even the most skeptical that something extraordinary is happening. One visionary even experienced a slight hemorrhage in his fingers after hours of intense prayer, and attentive doctors noted that this phenomenon did not fit any conventional explanation. It was as if the hidden truth were revealing itself insistently, begging to be recognized not only in the heart, but also in the visible reflection of the skin, as a reminder that our decisions, however mundane they may seem, can resonate in a much broader spiritual realm. But Mary's silent pact is not limited to bodily signs. It expands to nature, weaving meteorological phenomena that, to those who observe with eyes open to faith, sound like applause from heaven. There are reports of clouds forming in shapes reminiscent of a woman's maternal profile, gentle winds arising even on days of complete calm, and, in moments of collective prayer, raindrops falling only on groups of believers, as if each drop were a seal of approval, a divine embrace pouring mercy upon those who sincerely cry out. These phenomena, studied by amateur meteorologists and spiritual experts, deviate from the usual pattern of analyzing cold fronts or air currents. In one remarkable episode, a frequent drought that plagued the region gave way to gentle rain just as a group of hundreds of people gathered for a vigil, with no sign of clouds on the horizon. Some attribute this to mere climatic coincidences, but for those who experience conversion, it is confirmation that nature obeys a greater script, a subtle choreography orchestrated by the virgins. Yes. Beyond the atmospheric manifestations, there's the unmistakable scent of roses that emerges in the air without botanical explanation. On several occasions, pilgrims report smelling the scent of a flower garden right there, amid the rough stone and dry grass of the hill. Scientists took air samples to laboratories, trying to identify organic compounds that could explain that smell, but found no traces of substances capable of reproducing that heavenly fragrance. It's as if the spirit itself were responsible for spreading olfactory signals that break down barriers of reason and fuel a mindset of curiosity, challenging us to consider the divine presence in every breath of wind. In this scenario, nature becomes a vast canvas where revelations are imprinted in patterns that escape chance. Trees swaying without apparent wind, reflections of light dancing on rocks at dawn. Small golden auroras appearing at dusk all converge on a single point, reinforcing the impact of an accepted prayer and a welcomed yes. As these signs repeat themselves, amateur photographs and videos are created that far from stealing the mystery, comprise a collection of discrete evidence that inspires paranormal researchers to investigate the behind the scenes of this pact of communion. As these elements capture the attention of those seeking answers, the responsibility of each believer to interpret this harmony between body, nature, and spirit also grows. Decisions previously governed by pragmatism gain a new dimension by considering these manifestations as gateways to a constant dialogue with the divine. How many of us, upon observing a simple ray of light pierce the clouds, have not been led to reflect on higher intentions, questioning our own priorities, and redefining our journey of transformation? In a world where logic often tries to discredit the invisible, these signs exert a powerful attraction, for they are situated in a space where science and faith meet to contemplate a truth that transcends labels. These theses insist on seeking technical explanations, but in their interaction with pilgrims, they find something that defies any table or study: the conviction that reality can be broader than what we see. It is at this intersection between reason and mystery that we understand how Mary's silent pact can be seen in every particle of air, and in every trace that appears on the skin of those who choose to live with an open heart. And as these phenomena unfold, an implicit invitation emerges to keep our senses awake, attentive to the subtleties unfolding before us. The mind expands, realizing that daily decisions, a gesture of solidarity, a spontaneous prayer, a moment of contemplation, act as triggers for new manifestations, fueling a virtuous cycle of faith and revelation. Every scent, every drop of rain, every gentle mark on the body becomes a living chapter in a larger story, a testament to the way divine love communicates in subtle yet powerful ways. Now, as we absorb the breadth of these signals in our bodies and in nature, we realize we are immersed in a narrative that transcends the limits of our known world. And, with our hearts open to this experience of communion, I leave you with one final reflection. How do these signals resonate in your own life? And what nuances are we still missing? Comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. When it comes to perseverance in faith during difficult times, a scenario of trials so intense emerges that few convictions would remain intact without the support of a higher grace. In Medjugorje, Mary's silent yes becomes a banner of hope in dark days, guiding hearts to weather internal and external storms with a strength that defies purely rational explanations. It is behind the scenes of this journey that we learn stories of true transformation, revealing how the mindset of those who trust in the silent pact is capable of rising above emotional ruins and adverse circumstances. I remember a man who, after losing all his possessions in a natural disaster, found his spirit nearly broken. Displaced and alone, he traveled to Medjugorje with only what was left in his suitcase and, above all, with the desire to find answers. During a night of vigil, as he walked under the starry sky, he felt an inner breath so strong that his discouragement dissolved into active resignation. He understood that his true wealth lay in his faith, and in the decisions of solidarity he could make from then on. Motivated by this insight, he organized a support group for other affected families, putting into practice a generosity that blossomed into reconstruction projects and thousands of compassionate meals. The perseverance that emerged from this episode was not only a personal victory, but a wave of social impact that illuminated the paths of countless others. Another striking example involves a young mother, able to endure the fear of watching her son undergo painful treatment for a serious autoimmune disease. Each chemotherapy session seemed like a test to the limits of her faith, but she found constant support in this silent pact. In moments of despair, a moment of silence, a prayer whispered in her heart, was enough for the scent of roses, so characteristic of the apparitions, to envelop her and restore her courage to carry on. It was this perseverance that, she reported, led the doctors to observe surprising improvements in the boy's condition, reinforcing the notion that renewed prayer and trust in Mary's yes produce signals that are not restricted to the subjective, but touch the body and soul. Reports shared with spiritual psychology scholars highlight how renewed faith, sustained by a silent pact, impacts emotional resilience. Individuals who adopt this posture of active hope demonstrate, in stress tests, a lower propensity for disorders, such as chronic anxiety and depression, and a greater ability to make thoughtful decisions even under extreme pressure. This data, while scientific, echoes a hidden truth that pilgrims had already experienced decades ago. Persevering faith is a driving force of healing and balance, capable of redefining trajectories when least expected. In Medjugorje's own economy, entrepreneurial initiatives inspired by this dynamic of perseverance can be observed. Small businesses specializing in religious crafts, sustainable tourism, and spiritual formation courses were born from the courage of those who transformed an experience of loss into a movement that generated income and meaning for thousands of visitors. This fusion of spirit and concrete action illustrates how the silent pact is not confined to theories, but manifests itself in practical decisions that stimulate collective growth, generating a positive impact on local communities. And revelations. continue to emerge in the simplest moments. A nurse who, faced with exhausting workdays, found in the daily renewal of prayer the fuel to offer more empathetic care to patients. A teacher who, after years of discouragement, rediscovered, through reconnection with faith, the joy of teaching and the responsibility of shaping independent and compassionate minds. Each story, whether of extraordinary overcoming or small, everyday victories, forms a mosaic of perseverance that strengthens the credibility of a message that is not exhausted by the visible. We live in a time where crises seem to multiply at an accelerating pace: financial, environmental, political, and, no less important, crises of meaning. Amidst this turmoil, those who cling to Mary's silent pact find a tenuous yet firm line that connects the inner self to the divine, cultivating a mindset that sees adversity as opportunities for renewal. It is this perspective that transforms a crossroads into a path, a wound into a shield, and a fall into the impetus to rise stronger. The behind-the-scenes nature of this process also reveals the importance of community support. Prayer and reflection groups formed around the apparitions act as support networks, where sharing stories of persevering faith generates a spiral of mutual encouragement. In this environment, each decision made by those who live in solidarity becomes an inspiration for others, nurturing a virtuous cycle of hope and actions that expand the reach of the Medjugorje revelations. Each other's testimony acts as an extra fuel, reinforcing the conviction that perseverance is not a solitary act, but a collective effort that resonates through hearts. Considering all these experiences, we realize that perseverance in faith is not an unattainable goal, but a daily exercise of choice. Each time we face fear or uncertainty and choose to trust in Mary's silence, we reinforce the narrative of courage that sustains our journey. And these decisions, however small they may seem, add up to a journey of transformation that inspires generations, showing that divine love, when received with a genuine yes, becomes an inextinguishable light even in the deepest darkness. Now, as we reflect on how this perseverance shapes our lives and how we can integrate these lessons into our own challenges, we remember that the message of Medjugorje continues to lead us down unexpected paths, offering revelations that unfold with each step. Comment: I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. The seventh and final secret message of Medjugorje calls us to take on a mission of sharing that transcends mere words. Each believer is invited to become a living messenger, a bearer of divine love and the silent prophecies of Mary. Imagine that, by embracing all the previous revelations in her conversion, the renewal of prayer, the purifying fire of divine love, the call to unity, the signs in the body and in nature, and perseverance in difficult times, we are like seeds germinated in fertile soil, ready to sprout and take deep root in the earth of everyday experience. This mission of sharing is the ultimate unfolding of a journey of transformation that begins within, but soon expands to touch distant realities, creating a web of solidarity and hope. In every act of courage, one perceives the impact of those who decide to speak of the hidden truth they witnessed in the silence of their soul. There are impressive stories of people who, driven by a sense of urgency, opened unexpected avenues to spread Mary's prophecies. Blogs born from spontaneous testimonies, video channels gathering stories of healing, small local publications translating messages to rural communities. These projects, born behind the scenes of informal gatherings, have gained momentum to the point of inspiring international spiritual retreats, where hundreds of people gather to share the same vibrant flame of faith. This expansion demonstrates how the mission of sharing is an active decision, shaping mindsets and rebuilding personal and collective narratives. The courage required to assume this role of messenger often requires overcoming genuine fears. The fear of being misunderstood, insecurity in the face of opposing opinions, or even doubt about our ability to communicate something so sublime with clarity. However, each time a believer speaks out and shares their experience, they experience a domino effect of inspiration. Brief speech during a family meal, a sincere post on social media, a devotional recorded on a cell phone can touch hearts that, without this testimony, would never find reasons to renew hope amid life's difficult decisions. It is in this context that the mission of sharing becomes an exercise in vulnerability, but also in profound authenticity. We share not abstract ideas, but fragments of our own journey, involving elements of real transformation and personal revelations. The impact of this communication movement isn't limited to those who listen. It also nourishes those who transmit it. Messengers report a feeling of inner growth, a broadening of their own vocation, and a strengthening of the conviction that, by sharing what they've received, they participate in a larger project of which they are not just observers, but protagonists. This was the case of a young woman who, after an intense experience of renewed prayer in Medjugorje, created a weekly podcast to recount the nuances of the apparitions and interview other pilgrims. She says that, as she produced each episode, she perceived more clearly the consistency of the silent pact and found the strength to make courageous decisions in her professional and personal life. encouraged by the feedback from listeners who said they had been touched by the same revelations. Behind the scenes of this initiative, invitations to online conferences, literary collaborations, and even a small book of spiritual memoirs also emerged, proving that a simple mission of sharing can multiply exponentially. On another front, volunteer groups inspired by this message have come together to translate texts related to the apparitions and distribute them in marginalized communities, facilitating access to those prophecies that were previously kept in foreign languages or restricted to private settings. This strategic action, motivated by an awareness of social impact, demonstrates how sharing can be a catalyst for inclusion and the democratization of the message. People who had never heard of Medjugorje became familiar with the 7 messages, thanks to small brochures distributed in schools, hospitals, and shelters, generating an awareness-raising effect beyond the walls of institutional faith, reaching those most in need of comfort and guidance. The mission of sharing, therefore, is not an isolated act, but a cycle of revelations that are consolidated in practice and return enriched to the original source. It is a living dialogue between the receiver and the giver, a continuous flow of spiritual energy that fuels the service mentality and reinforces the confidence that every decision to share something so valuable has lasting consequences. As more people embrace this calling, bridges of cooperation are built and they work together on initiatives ranging from interfaith prayer campaigns to educational projects focused on the values of compassion and solidarity. At the heart of this mission is the importance of authentic narratives. The more a messenger reveals their own doubts, their moments of weakness, and the revelations that sustain them, the deeper the connection with those who listen. This honesty creates an environment conducive to others feeling safe to open their hearts and, perhaps, take the first step toward personal transformation. It is in this fertile ground that a community of mutual testimonies flourishes, a space where each individual account contributes to a collective storehouse of faith and encouragement. As we explore these behind-the-scenes moments, we realize that the mission of sharing, although demanding, is also profoundly liberating. When we let go of the fear of keeping everything secret and assume the role of messengers, we discover that true spiritual freedom lies in giving voice to what touches us, allowing Mary's silent yes to act more broadly, touching lives that, without this bridge of communication, would remain distant from this pact of love. This movement of surrender is reflected in small daily choices. The decision to dedicate time to recording a testimony, the courage to listen to and amplify the voice of another pilgrim, the willingness to translate content to reach different cultures. And, by recognizing the breadth of this call, we are reminded that no matter how we choose to share, whether through text, image, audio, or in person, the essential thing is to keep alive the flame of solidarity that each prophecy awakens. This is the true essence of the 7th message, understanding that we have been chosen to be messengers of a love that is not confined, but expands in decisions, in acts of compassion, and in an ongoing journey of revelations that unite hearts throughout the world. Comment below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Living Mary's yes in your daily life is more than repeating automatic gestures. It's allowing each of the 7 messages to become a tangible foundation in your routine, shaping your mindset, guiding your decisions, and revealing the hidden truth that sustains a journey of genuine transformation. To begin, try cultivating a daily prayer that goes beyond memorized words, transforming small moments into rituals of true connection. Choose a fixed time, whether at dawn, before the sun breaks the horizon, or at dusk, when the world slows down. Remain silent for a few minutes, closing your eyes and then letting your natural breath guide your inner dialogue. As you inhale, imagine receiving Mary's silent yes. As you exhale, surrender your fears and limitations. This simple practice, untethered from the hustle and bustle of modern life, creates an inner space for inner conversion to slowly unfold, affecting your way of thinking from the core. Next, introduce spontaneous acts of charity into your routine that reflect the fire of divine love ignited by the 3rd message. Our society, often guided by values of productivity and immediate results, forgets the transformative power of a gratuitous gesture. Offering your time to an elderly neighbor for a warm conversation, donating food to someone in need, or simply sharing some of your talent with someone eager to learn are concrete ways to practice love without expecting anything in return. This willingness to serve, motivated by Mary's yes, makes a real impact, because by blessing others, you end up blessing yourself, reinforcing your journey of personal growth and fostering a sense of community. No less important is setting aside time for meditation on biblical passages that speak to your heart, as a way to renew your prayer based on an ancient truth. Choose passages that directly connect with each of the 7 messages. For example, meditate on Luke 1:38 to deepen your understanding of Mary's consent, or on John 15:12-13 to feel the fire of divine love. In practice, adopt Lectio Divina. Read the text carefully. Let a word or phrase resonate in your mind. Reflect on the meaning of this revelation for your current life. And finally, apply the insight to a concrete decision, perhaps a heartfelt conversation you need to have, or an alternative course of action in a challenging situation. This method elevates Bible study from a mere intellectual exercise to an experience of personal dialogue with the source of faith to strengthen perseverance in difficult times. Create anchors of hope throughout your day. This could be a reminder on your alarm clock that triggers a short prayer, or a note on your mirror with a phrase that evokes renewed prayer and the certainty that you are not alone. These mental shortcuts, as simple as they may seem, serve as constant reminders that the Virgin Mary's yes is at work behind the scenes in your daily routine, sustaining your ability to withstand crises and maintain faith even when headwinds persist. Another crucial point is practicing unity in your social circle. If the fourth message calls for communion among people, how about starting with your closest relationships? Inviting a coworker for a coffee so you can chat leisurely, or embracing differences of opinion with the curiosity of those seeking to learn about diverse realities, are ways to manifest this call for peace. By doing so, you'll notice your own heart opening to new perspectives, breaking down internal barriers and reaching out to those who, at first glance, might seem like strangers. We mustn't forget to activate our senses for the signs that occur in the body and in nature. As per the fifth message, become a conscious observer of the small daily miracles, the unexpected scent of a flower on a city path, the gentle warmth that warms your chest during a contemplative experience, or even the coincidences that insist on repeating themselves, indicating a larger script at work. Take time to record these occurrences in a faith journal. By revisiting them, you will find further proof that Mary's yes is present in the subtleties of existence, guiding your perceptions and inspiring your choices. When we talk about a mission of sharing, we don't need grand stages. Start by sharing your spiritual discoveries with those closest to you. A frank conversation with a friend, rather than a moment disconnected from routine, can become a portal of mutual revelation, amplifying the impact of your testimony. By translating your experience into simple words, you develop the ability to communicate the essential without losing depth, influencing others to embark on this journey of conversion and service. These practical suggestions converge to create an integrated strategy. Each day, you embody an aspect of the silent pact, aligning your prayers, actions, and reflections with the 7 messages that enliven the human heart. This dynamic creates a virtuous cycle of revelations that are constantly renewed, fertilizing your inner self and simultaneously irrigating the collective soil with seeds of hope. The hidden truth that once seemed distant becomes tangible as your decisions begin to reflect the values of love, unity, and perseverance that Mary engraved in every faithful soul, and realizing that this process has no endpoint for the journey of faith is always subject to new discoveries and root adjustments. We are naturally led to remain alert to the unfolding developments that will arise. With each daily practice, each act of charity, and each moment of meditation, we build a solid foundation that will allow us to advance safely along the path of the next stages of this itinerary, delving even deeper into the mysteries revealed. In Medjugorje comment, "I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject." Imagine, for a moment, the enveloping silence of an ancient chapel, where candles flicker gently and a faint aroma of incense lingers in the air. In this setting, visualize Mary serene, compassionate, smiling silently, while her yes resonates tenderly in your heart, inviting you to break through the barriers of fear and surrender completely to this maternal presence. Feel the weight of daily worries melt away before this silent gesture, as if each beat of your chest were set to the rhythm of a gentle melody of hope and renewed certainty. This powerful image, imbued with symbolism and revelation, serves as a portal to an intimate encounter with the Virgin, where divine love expresses itself in an affection that transcends words and reconfigures your journey of faith. It is in this moment of contemplation that we clearly perceive how each message from inner conversion to the mission of sharing has converged toward this moment of encounter. The entire journey of transformation, the shifts in mindset, the courageous decisions, and the revelations behind the scenes of spiritual experience culminate in a single voice, Mary's gentle yes, which echoes in every fiber of our being. This invitation is not limited to a historical event or a distant tale. It is as current and urgent as the air we breathe now, and is capable of transforming our routines, giving deeper meaning to the simplest tasks and revelations to the most subtle situations. Allow yourself then to feel the vibration of this invisible bond that forms the moment you open your heart. Each time you mentally repeat that phrase of consent, "Behold the handmaid of the Lord," you will be aligning yourself with the same inner disposition that Mary manifested in her Annunciation. This attunement opens space for decisions more aligned with the common good, for a real impact on those around you, and for a broader understanding of what truly matters. As you connect with this hidden truth, your choices cease to be superficial and begin to reflect eternal values: love, forgiveness, mercy, and unity. Within this experience, a stronger sense of community also emerges. knowing that there are millions of people of different languages and cultures living this same silent yes in their hearts creates a network of faith that transcends borders. It is as if, when contemplating Mary's serene face, we feel the pulse of a renewed humanity, willing to rise up in acts of compassion and make decisions grounded in a greater purpose. This global communion reinforces the power of the Pact, demonstrating that every gesture, no matter how small, contributes to a movement of transformation that occurs on many fronts, within us, in our families, in our communities, and in the world. As this flame of encounter with Mary burns within you, observe how the rhythm of your life can adjust more harmoniously. Everyday tasks take on renewed meaning when performed as a silent offering of gratitude. A simple act of helping a neighbor, a kind word to a coworker, a moment of silence to listen to one's inner cries all become living expressions of this pact that Mary engraved in faithful souls. Thus, the emotional encounter with the Virgin is not restricted to the spiritual plane, but takes shape in practical attitudes, in kind attitudes, and in choices that promote peace and fraternity. And as this bridge between the human heart and the divine presence strengthens, a natural expectation arises for what lies ahead. New chapters of conversion, discoveries about the nature of spiritual commitment, further revelations about how this pact operates in surprising ways amidst the most unusual circumstances. Each person, by embracing this encounter with Mary, becomes a catalyst for a chain of acts of kindness and hope, fueling a current of light that grows exponentially without relying on grand stages. Comment: this makes sense to me. If you've made it this far, my friend, it means this journey has truly touched your hearts. So if it resonates with you, leave a "I'm with you" until the end comment to let me know we're connected in this quest. If you enjoyed this dive into the messages of Medjugorje, take advantage and give it a quick like. It's a simple way to show that this content makes a difference in your life. And if you want to continue being guided by reflections and revelations like these, subscribe to the channel. Here you'll always find new ways to strengthen your faith and transform your daily life. There's a video right here that perfectly complements everything we discussed today. Click and stay with me there to enrich the experience even more. I hope to see you in the next conversation with new discoveries and even more inspiration.